This is going to be a little bit different of a video because of the subject matter. It's quite heavy and depressing because it deals with somebody taking their own life. Because of the sensitive subject matter, if people post something shitty in the comments, I will be deleting it and blocking you. Anyway, for those who are not aware, Alberta is changing its disability social services from something called AISH to ADAP. Because of this, somebody actually ended up taking their own life because they could not conceive of the impossible choice that the government of Alberta has put them in. I was able to get a hold of his final letter, and so I'm going to read that first and then do the standard analysis that I do. I've always been ashamed of not being able to earn a living and receiving CPP, disability, and age for the past 29 years. Throughout that time, I tried working, employment, and volunteering when I could, but couldn't do it for long. Depression, anxiety, and stress. It doesn't take long for me to get to the point where I can't think straight. I am unreliable, useless. I don't deserve to live. Life has always been a burden to me, and I've always been a burden to society and everyone around me. I am ashamed to be alive. I first tried to commit suicide 41 years ago, and I have repeatedly been able to do so because of either survival instinct or cowardice. I don't know which. My depression started when I was about 10 years old, so it has lasted 47 years. 47 years too long. My latest volunteer work had me energized for a while. Nobody cared about it, so I could do what I could, when I could. I almost felt good for a while, but I kept burning out again. I got more ashamed of myself for being unable to do much, and the work doesn't matter. Then the Alberta government kicked me in the teeth with the introduction of ADAP. My anxiety and stress levels skyrocketed. My depression started to get worse and worse as time went by, as it became clear that the government wasn't backing off, that it was really going to go with transferring almost everyone on AISH to ADAP, reduce our benefits, and expect us to find employment or else. Even more ashamed and depressed, I evaluated my employability. I can work maybe 2 to 3 in a day, but then the next day or two, I can't think. I'm useless. What work I could do, I do too slowly. I make mistakes no matter how careful I am. I can't deal with people much. I'm very negative. My university education is now useless. What skills I had have degraded through depression, anxiety, and stress. I've tried, but I am unable to revitalize my computer skills. I used to fix computers, but by the time I quit that, I couldn't fix the weird problems with my own computer. I bought a new one, and now just a little over a year, it has things going wrong that I can't figure out how to fix, so I give up. I started to look for work again, something that I could do remotely via computer and internet. Surely there must be something I can do? Every job opening I look at requires someone who is outgoing, energetic, positive, and a people person, not me. I can't relocate as I'm already living in the cheapest way possible. The anxiety and stress is still very high if I'm around other people. So being in the hospital with a lot of other people, most of whom are having problems too, is worse than a normal crowd of people. I had to be on the defense to protect myself from others. The stress and anxiety make the experience torture. The second time I was in the hospital psych ward, I resolved that it would never happen again. I am better off alone. Group therapy? Impossible. When I wasn't about to have a panic attack, I was brought to tears by what others said. I hated myself even more for having piddly little problems compared to theirs. There was no way I was going to reveal my problems and secrets to them. The anxiety and stress of the situation was too much for me to handle. Cognitive behavioral therapy? I was very disappointed when I learned what that was. It was basically what I had already been doing the 10 years between leaving home and my first hospitalization. Force myself to be positive, resolve that everything was going to change for the better, tell myself good things, fake it until you make it. It didn't work before and even contributed to my mental breaks, so why would I lie to myself anymore? Luckily, I was spared ECT because of a brain tumor, a whole other story. When I learned more about ECT and saw the effect it had on other patients, I realized it wouldn't do me any good. A seizure causing confusion and some short-term memory loss might help someone who has been depressed a short time, but it is not going to help someone who has been suffering for decades. Talking one-on-one, I get more and more upset as I talk about my problems, bringing them into the forefront to my mind. I'd be extremely upset and suicidal for a week or more afterwards such a talk. So I went back to hiding everything I was feeling, lying to doctors so I wouldn't be locked up in a hospital hell. Stay at home by myself, try not to think about the problems, avoid people, avoid women especially. But I had a huge need to work. If I'm not working, I'm not worthy of living. Someone who doesn't earn a living doesn't deserve to live on the backs of others. So I tried again and again, burning out, stressing out, making mistakes, being slow, useless. Yet hell, even watching TV or reading can stress me out and or get me upset. But if the story is not mentally stimulating, then the stupidity of it disgusts me. The stupidity everywhere I look in the world disgusts me, but I can't do anything about it. I'm now 57 and now have diabetes, high blood pressure, glaucoma, diabetic neuropathy. Luckily, the horrible migraine headaches that I suffered from my early memories until my mid-20s are gone. That's because the brain tumor that was caused by a head injury as a toddler had stopped growing. Shoulder pain that won't go away and gets worse if I do the exercises that are supposed to help. I could get x-rays and wait many months to see a specialist, but apparently most likely treatment to do nothing. Why waste everyone's time with all that? My age shows now that any physical exertion results in aches and pains. I am weaker than before. Suddenly, I now have trouble opening jars. Exercise only causes pain. The last time I exercised by squeezing a rubber ball was 2 weeks ago, and while my left arm recovered, my right has not. Constant pain because I am right-handed, and even using a computer mouse keeps the pain going. I take 9 pills a day, which costs the government a lot of money. It is wasted on me. ADAP is just something that has finally pushed me to end everything. It wasn't the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, it was an anvil. It catapulted me over the edge into a massive spiral of anxiety, stress, depression, and self-loathing, leading to death. I have to overcome my survival instinct and cowardice. Don't think, just do it and be thorough. Make sure there is no way out. Life is untenable, a torture every day, in which experience has taught me that nothing can help, only oblivion. I won't say goodbye, because there is nothing good. This goes to show that politics and policy aren't always abstract, and a lot of the time, most of the time, they have real world impacts severely on people. So the government of Alberta is trying to say that they're doing this to empower people on disability and that they should be able to make more money, but it's also about wanting to reduce abuses or whatever. My problem with this is that I do think this is more values driven and ideology driven than based on empirics. First, how does this work and what's changing? So it's making like a two-tiered system, so only the severely disabled who are completely unable to work are going to stay on AISH, which is the $1,900 a month, but most are going to be moved from AISH to ADAP. And one major change that I think is quite jarring is that there is no appeal process. Once you move, and if you try to apply back to AISH and get the higher one and say, no, I can't work, the government of Alberta decides through bureaucracy and pencil pusher basically gets to decide whether or not you should work. And then once they make that the decision, there is no recourse. You cannot appeal it. And I think there's an inconsistency here. The government of Alberta says that they want to empower people to work and make more money on disability. They could have just upped the amount of money that they can make on AISH without reducing and making this two-tiered system. The people who were able and wanted to work would work and make more money, and the people who could not wouldn't be able to, right? But now they're making it that they're deciding who can work. And like the gentleman in this letter that we read, it puts them in a precarious situation. One, if they get moved, already people with disabilities often have mental fog, fatigue, mental decline, cognitive decline, as we saw in the letter. And so already just applying and trying to go through the bureaucracy of the government is putting so much onerous effort, and it's punishing people to do something that might be simple for us, but it's going to be hard for them. And government bureaucrats are not specialists in that. Even if a doctor says, well, no, this person can't work, if they have an invisible illness, if there's something that feasibly they can walk, it seems like they don't have complete like physical disabilities. This is the problem with a lot of disability stuff, is that a lot of it's cognitive, that it's invisible. And so they might look at this and be like, well, no, you just need to try harder. Or we think you can work 10 hours a week or 12 hours a week or however many hours a week, so you're fine. But maybe they're not. But they have no way to appeal that. That's cruel. And this is why I think it's values-based and ideology-based. What it is really about is they want people to work. It's about the Protestant work ethic aspect. And just like this poor man who internalized that worth comes from working, it seems like the government of Alberta is also doing that too. It's like, well, no, you need to work if you're even on social services and you have a disability. And the gentleman who took his own life is representative of thousands of people within Alberta who are going through the same thing and dealing with the same impossible choice. Because $200 reduction on somebody in disability is massive for them. And already it's not enough money. Like that's nothing a month. Now they have to make this impossible choice of either sacrificing their health so they can have a quality of life and afford to live, or not afford to live, maybe lose housing, maybe not be able to eat properly. The government is going ahead regardless, even though activists, experts, associations, people on disability, everybody are saying this is a bad idea. And this is not based on any empirical evidence. It's not based on any data. It's not based on anything that's grounded in like, this is going to be effective and this is going to help people. This is based on them saying, well, no, people need to work and we don't want people to take advantage of the system. They're just lazy. And so we're going to make it that they have to work. That's what I think is going on. And it's absolutely cruel to do that, where you're just basing it off of your own values and your perspective and not basing it on empirical evidence. Good government policy isn't based on your personal preferences or values. It's based on grounded data on what is the most effective kind of social services. And now, this added bureaucracy that they're doing, right? Because now they have this two-tiered system. People are going to be applying. How much money is that going to cost? Is it actually going to save the government of Alberta that much money that they have extra auditing and extra bureaucracy? Because that costs a lot of money. But conservatives always do this, it seems like, that it's about the principle, it's not actually about the pragmatic, real world outcome and finances. It's about punishing people they think have less value in society. So Daniel Smith and the other UCP leaders who actually put forth this policy, you were responsible for this man's death, and you should be held accountable.